They say the shortest word in the English language can also be the hardest to speak. Just 2 letters, 1 small syllable. No, yet how many times have you found yourself saying yes when every part of you wanted to say no? To friends who drain your energy, to coworkers who overload you with tasks, to opportunities that feel more like burdens than blessings. We live in a world that glorifies busyness, a culture where being available, agreeable, and constantly saying yes is celebrated as a virtue. But here's the truth. Every yes you give without thought is also a no to yourself. And today, through a story that will stay with you long after this video ends, we're going to uncover the hidden power of saying no, a power that can change your life, your relationships, and your future. So stay with me till the end. I promise, this one word might just transform everything you thought you knew about success. In the bustling heart of New York City lived a young man named Daniel. On the outside, Daniel seemed like the kind of person everyone admired. He worked tirelessly at his corporate job, rarely said no to overtime, and was the go-to guy whenever anyone needed help. Friends praised him for being reliable, colleagues praised him for being a team player, and his bosses liked him because he never turned down an assignment, no matter how unreasonable. Yet, behind the polished smile and polite yes, of course, Daniel felt like his soul was being chipped away piece by piece. He had no time for his passions, no energy for his relationships, and no clear sense of who he really was. His life was an endless treadmill, powered not by his own dreams, but by the demands and expectations of others. One evening, exhausted from another 14-hour workday, Daniel stumbled into a quiet bookstore near his apartment. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, but a small book with a worn leather cover caught his attention. On the cover, in faded gold letters, were 3 words: "The Power of No." Curious, Daniel flipped it open and found a handwritten note inside. To the reader, it said, "If you feel lost, remember this. You cannot say yes to your destiny until you learn to say no to distractions." Intrigued, Daniel bought the book and carried it home. Little did he know, this chance encounter would change his entire perspective. The book wasn't long, but its lessons hit him harder than any motivational speech he had ever heard. It told stories of people who had wasted years chasing things they didn't care about, all because they were afraid of disappointing others. It explained how boundaries aren't walls, but gates that keep the wrong things out so the right things can come in. For the first time, Daniel began to question his own choices. Why had he agreed to a promotion he didn't want? Why did he go out of his way to help people who never returned the favor? Why did the word no feel like a betrayal when, in truth, it was an act of self-respect? That night, Daniel made a quiet promise to himself. The next time life gave him a chance, he would dare to say no, not out of selfishness, but out of strength. He didn't know it yet, but the test would come much sooner than he expected. The very next morning at work, Daniel's manager called him into the office. Sitting across from the tall glass window that overlooked the city, his manager smiled and said, "Daniel, I've got a new project for you. It's going to demand long nights and weekends, but I know I can count on you. What do you say?" Daniel froze. His instinct screamed, "No," but years of habit pushed the usual polite yes to the tip of his tongue. He remembered the line from the book, "You cannot say yes to your destiny until you learn to say no to distractions." Was this project his destiny, or was it just another distraction, pulling him further away from who he wanted to be? Taking a deep breath, Daniel spoke carefully. "I'm honored you thought of me, but I have to decline this time. My plate is already full, and I need to focus on doing my current work well." The silence that followed was heavy. His manager raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. No one ever said no in this office. For a moment, Daniel feared he had ruined his reputation, but then, to his shock, his manager simply nodded. "All right, I understand. We'll give it to someone else." And just like that, the meeting ended. Walking back to his desk, Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and liberation. It was the first time in years he had openly refused something, and instead of the world collapsing, life simply moved on. The sky didn't fall, the earth didn't shake, but inside Daniel, something powerful had shifted. Later that week, something else happened that would test him even more. His friend Alex invited him to a late-night party. Normally, Daniel would have agreed out of loyalty, even though he was exhausted and craved rest. This time, he paused. He thought about how often he had sacrificed his own peace just to please others. "I appreciate the invite," Daniel said gently, "but I'm going to sit this one out tonight. I really need some rest." Alex frowned, a little disappointed. "You never come out anymore, man." Daniel felt a pang of guilt, but he stayed firm. "I know, but I need to take care of myself. We'll hang out soon." To his surprise, Alex shrugged it off and moved on. Daniel realized something eye-opening. People often respect you more when you respect yourself. Saying no didn't push people away, it set clear boundaries that earned their understanding, and sometimes even their admiration. As the weeks went on, Daniel began to notice the ripple effects of his small no's. He had more free time, which he used to pick up painting again, something he hadn't touched since college. He felt healthier because he wasn't constantly burning the candle at both ends. He even started reading more, exercising, and reconnecting with his family. Every no was making room for a more meaningful yes. But the real turning point came when Daniel received an unexpected phone call. A startup company he had once casually met with wanted to offer him a position. The role was different, creative, flexible, and aligned with his passion for design. The catch? It would mean leaving his secure corporate job. Old Daniel would have automatically said yes to staying where it was safe. But the new Daniel paused. He realized that by saying no to one life, he might be saying yes to a better one. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gave himself time to think. That evening, Daniel stood by his apartment window, staring out at the glowing city skyline. He thought about all the years he had wasted saying yes out of fear, and all the peace he had gained in the past few weeks by daring to say no. He smiled. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had a choice. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. The offer from the startup kept replaying in his mind like a song stuck on repeat. The safe part of him wanted to stay with his stable corporate job, the one with benefits, security, and predictable paychecks. But the deeper part of him, the one he had only recently started listening to, was whispering, "This is your chance. Don't miss it." The next morning, he decided to meet with the startup team. As he walked into their small, buzzing office, filled with energy and creativity, he immediately noticed the difference. There was laughter, collaboration, and a sense of purpose. The CEO greeted him warmly. "Daniel, we loved your portfolio. We think you'd be a perfect fit. But we also know leaving your current job won't be easy. Take your time." That simple phrase, "take your time," felt like a breath of fresh air. His current job never allowed him time to breathe. He sat in the meeting, nodding, listening. But inside, a battle was raging. Saying yes to this opportunity meant saying no to the comfortable routine he had built for years. It meant stepping into uncertainty, risking failure, and embracing change. Later that evening, Daniel met with his sister, Maya, someone he deeply trusted. Over coffee, he poured out his dilemma. Maya listened carefully, then asked a question that cut straight through his confusion. "Daniel, when was the last time you said yes to something that truly lit you up inside?" He froze. The truth hit hard. He couldn't remember. Most of his yeses had been to obligations, expectations, and fear of disappointing others. Rarely had they been for himself. Maya leaned in. "Maybe this isn't just about saying no to a job. Maybe it's about saying yes to yourself." Her words echoed in his mind as he walked home under the glow of streetlights. The city felt alive, almost like it was urging him to make a choice. For years, he had lived on autopilot, giving his energy away, afraid to draw boundaries. Now, he was standing at a crossroads, holding the power he had never realized he had, the power of choice. That night, Daniel drafted his resignation letter. His hands trembled as he typed, not out of fear, but out of excitement. Every word felt like a declaration of freedom. When he finally hit save, a strange calmness washed over him. He hadn't sent it yet, but even writing it made him realize he was ready to take back his life. The following morning, He walked into his manager's office once more. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. "I've made a decision. I'm resigning to pursue another opportunity." The manager blinked, caught off guard. "Daniel, are you sure? You're one of our best." Daniel nodded. "I'm sure. Thank you for everything, but I need to take this step." There was no anger, no drama, just acceptance. And as Daniel walked out of the building, the weight he had carried for years seemed to lift off his shoulders. The city noise sounded different, like music. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't just surviving, he was choosing. In the weeks that followed, Daniel started his new role at the startup. It wasn't perfect. There were challenges, long hours, and moments of doubt. But every time he faced uncertainty, he remembered the lesson. Saying no to one path is what allowed him to say yes to another. And in those quiet moments of reflection, he realized something profound. The hidden power of no wasn't about rejection, it was about redirection. Every no he had said recently hadn't closed a door, it had opened a better one. Daniel's journey proves a timeless truth. Every no creates space for a deeper yes. Sometimes, the bravest choice isn't chasing success, it's choosing yourself first.